Hello and welcome to Here Tutoring. In this video, we're going to cover the top 10 tips, tricks, and strategies to use to raise your ACT score. So, without further ado, here they are. Tip number 1. Don't take the ACT like it's a normal test. Usually, for a normal test, you have plenty of time to finish, so you start from the beginning and work slowly and carefully to the end. Also, especially for math, you usually have to show all the steps and show the teacher you actually know how to go through the process of answering the questions the right way. But you shouldn't take the ACT this way. First of all, because you won't have plenty of time to work slowly and carefully through all of the questions, especially for the reading and science tests. And second of all, because you don't need to show that you know how to do the questions in the right way. All you need to do is pick the right answer. This is especially relevant for the math test. You not only don't need to show your work for the ACT math test, but you also don't need to do the questions the right way. There are tricks to finding the right answer, even if you have no idea how to do the question the right way. Tip number 2. Bring and know how to use a digital watch. If you're at all serious about getting the highest score possible on the ACT, bringing a digital watch really isn't an option. Bringing a digital watch will help you manage time and pace yourself through each test so you can make the most of every valuable minute that you have. Now, there will probably be a clock in the room that you take the ACT in, but since it probably won't be a digital clock, it'll be harder to keep track of time precisely using this clock. And also, this clock might not be in a convenient location for you to check it regularly and easily. Bringing and using a digital watch yourself helps you make sure you're in control of time management for the ACT, which is key to getting the highest score possible on the test. I wouldn't worry about the watch beeping, since it's quick and quiet enough to not be an issue. Just start the stopwatch when the proctor says begin, and then keep track of time according to your game plan, which is our next strategy. Tip number 3. Have a game plan for managing time. The ACT is a timed test, and time is especially an issue for the reading and science tests, which are designed to be difficult to finish for almost every student. If you don't go into each test with a game plan for managing time, there's a really good chance that you'll run out of time for the test. For the English test, time won't really be an issue, but just know that you have about 9 minutes for each passage. For the math test, you have 60 minutes for 60 questions, but the questions get harder at the end, so you want to make sure that you work faster at the beginning so you have more time for the questions that are harder at the end. For the reading test, you have about 8 minutes 45 seconds for each passage, and you want to read each passage in about 3 minutes plus or minus 30 seconds. For the science test, give yourself about 5 minutes for each of the non-conflicting viewpoints passage, a little less for the data representation passages, and a little more for the conflicting viewpoints passage. When you go into each of the different sections of the ACT, you should know what question or passage you should be on at a certain time and stick to this game plan to avoid missing any of the easy questions you might not get to otherwise. Tip number 4. Use authentic ACT practice tests to prepare. Did you know that most of the ACT practice tests out there are actually not really authentic ACT practice tests, but rather imitation practice tests that companies other than the ACT have created themselves? Now, some of them might be pretty good, but none of them really compares to using actual retired ACT practice tests, which are the only practice tests that will truly give you an accurate prediction of what ACT score you might get on the actual test. Currently, there are 11 real authentic ACT practice tests out there. 4 of them are free and they can be found in the Preparing for the ACT booklets, which you can find links to below. 5 of them are in the Real ACT Prep Guide, also known as the Red Book, and 2 of them can be found from the ACT online website, which you can register for. The best way to prepare for what you will actually see on the ACT is to use these real ACT practice tests, and then go to the other practice tests only after you've used up all of these real ones. Tip number 5. Take advantage of the special ACT test dates. Did you know that out of the 6 days that the ACT is administered each year, 3 of them are special? Well, how are they special? Well, for the December, April, and June ACT test dates, you can order something called the Test Information Release Form, which will allow you to receive a copy of your answers and test booklet so you can know what you missed and how to improve for next time. This resource is great for finding out what you need to work on for the next time that you take the ACT. Also, since you can take the ACT as many times as you want without penalty, it's a great idea to start taking the ACT early and use these test information release forms to get better and better each time you take the ACT. The slight extra cost for this form is well worth the knowledge you'll gain from it that'll help you improve your score for next time. Tip number 6, develop your reading speed and comprehension by reading a lot of college-level nonfiction articles, magazines, and books beforehand. The most important skill that the ACT focuses on is reading speed and ability. This is because being able to read well is probably the most important factor to succeeding in college due to the sheer amount of reading that is required in college. This is why the ACT reading and science tests don't require you to actually come in knowing anything, but rather, all of the answers are in the test itself. The only problem, and it's a big one for most students, is that you need to be able to read and comprehend fast enough to be able to finish on time and get a good score. So, before you take the ACT, try to read as much as possible, specifically college-level nonfiction texts, which are the kind of texts that will show up on the passages that you'll see on the ACT. Now we're going to cover a few specific strategies for each section of the ACT. Tip number 7. For the English test, always keep in mind, less is usually better. This principle probably shows up more regularly than any other principle for the ACT English test. And if you simply keep this in mind throughout the entire test, you'll get a good number of questions correct. Generally speaking, the shortest or the shorter answer choices are more likely to be correct than longer answer choices, because one major skill the ACT focuses on for the ACT English test is being able to write concisely. So, if you see choices that add unnecessary words to a sentence, even if these choices make sense, they are probably wrong. If a choice is short and it makes sense in the sentence, then there's a really good chance that it's simply the correct choice. Tip number 8. For the math test, be ready to use the answer choices and try random numbers. Unlike in math class, for the ACT math test, you don't need to show your work or prove that you actually know how to do the problems the right way. All you need to do is pick the right answer through whatever means necessary. And sometimes the best way to do this, and in fact the way that the ACT wants you to do this, is to cheat by either using the answer choices or by putting random easy numbers into the question. The ACT is testing your problem solving and critical thinking abilities also, not just your math abilities. For some questions, the right way to do the question will simply take too long, and so the question is designed to see if you can figure out the shortcut to the question. So, don't feel bad about doing problems for the math test the wrong way. The writers of the ACT are oftentimes seeing if you can figure out these tricks to some of the problems. Tip number 9. For the reading test, practice reading each passage in about 3 minutes plus or minus 30 seconds. You don't have the luxury of reading each passage slowly and carefully and then trying to find the answers to each question slowly and carefully. You need a game plan to finish the test within the time limit, and the best way to do this is to make sure you spend only a certain amount of time reading each passage and then using the key pieces of information you gain through this initial reading to answer the questions efficiently. So, know how fast you need to read each passage and know what you want to be looking for as you read through each passage. Don't try to remember every little detail, but rather only the most important details and where to look if you need to find out more specific information. And finally, tip number 10. For the science test, use your fingers to keep track of information. For a lot of the questions that involve graphs, charts, and experiments, you're going to need to constantly go back and forth between the question and the information from the passage. If you just use your eyes, you're probably going to waste a good amount of time trying to find the place you're looking for. Instead, keep your fingers by the relevant question and information from the passage so that when you need to look back and forth, your finger will already be at the place you need to look at. Your finger is a physical tool that will help your eyes be more efficient for the ACT science test, so you can make the most of every minute you have. It would also be a good idea to use your finger for every section of the ACT in some way, but your finger is especially helpful for the reading and science tests, which are extremely limited in time. Using your finger helps you work more quickly and efficiently for these tests. So, these are the top 10 tips for getting a higher score on the ACT. Hopefully you found them helpful. Make sure to like and subscribe to support and stay updated with our videos. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.